So welcome everybody on this beautiful Mother's Day. Generally we have quite a number of people, but I think there's a lot of mothers being honored or mothers being recipients of honor today. But thank you for coming. We're all mothers to each other in some way, shape, or form. So the way that we generally do our guided meditations is that we'll do a little bit of a body scan just to get ourselves kind of settled in the space. And then I will lead a motivation. We always try to set our intention here at the Abbey. And then we will do an interesting reflection today, sort of coming from last month's chapter that was read and taught by Venerable Sangye Kadro, one of our senior teachers here who is now in Spain teaching. So we'd like to take the reflection from the month previous chapter and then bring it forward. And then Venerable will then begin a new chapter today. So let's just take a moment to bring ourselves physically and mentally into the space. So anything that has come up in the past, just let it go. Anything you may be having thoughts about regarding the future, just let that go. And then bring yourself, and we'll do a little bit of a body scan and make sure our posture is ready for meditation. So in most Buddhist traditions, it is very much pointed out that the position of the body really does lend itself to either supporting the meditation session or not. So in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, as with others, we'd like to keep our spine straight but at ease. So if you don't have to use the back of the chair and scoot yourself up so your spine is actually supporting you, not the back of the chair, that would be great. Our hands are in our laps below our belly, palms on top of one another, thumbs touching, resting very comfortably right on the thighs. The eyes are slightly open so we don't nod off in sleep. So you don't focus on anything in particular, but you open your eyes just enough to let some light in. The chin is slightly tucked. The shoulders are level. And the tongue rests comfortably up on the upper palate above the upper teeth. When you say the word mine, the tongue will rest right in the exact place. And just get a sense of being an embodied being. The body and mind existing together and dependence upon your particular body, your particular mind. The label has been given, whatever your name is. But really just feel like you're at home in the body with your mind. And so to ensure that any places in the body that may be uncomfortable or tired or tight or unsettled get to be, we get to bring some attention to that place. We're going to do a very short and simple body scan, starting at the crown of our heads. So bring your awareness, your attention to your skull. And if you're one prone to headaches or migraines, if there's any tightness or pointed pain, bring your attention to that place. And just bring some undivided and warm attention, imagining it softening, loosening, easing off on any type of pressure. Maybe behind the eyes or at the base of the neck or the back of the head. And then bring your attention to your face and just check in to see if your brow is furrowed or your eyes are scrunched or your jaw is tight. We take in a lot of sense data through our eyes, nose, ears, mouth. So they can actually get a little overstimulated or a little tired. So check in with your eyes, your nose, your lips, your ears, your brow, your jaw, your temples. And if there's any place that just feels kind of tired this morning, bring your undivided attention to that place and really feel it being nourished and healed and loosened, unbound. And then down to your neck, your shoulders, another place that so many of us hold tension. So if that's one of your places that gets tight, you may want to lift your shoulders up to your ears and then drop them down very quickly, feeling the release of all the tension, the tightness that may be there. And then bring your awareness to your right arm from the shoulder, upper arm, forearm, wrist, all the way to your fingertips. Checking in with any soreness. Anything that's tight or tired. And then back up the right arm across the shoulders and then down the left arm. Once again, scanning the upper arm, the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, all the way to the fingertips. If you're doing a lot of gardening or your livelihood involves a lot of typing, check your wrists, your fingers. And then back up. And then bring your awareness to your spine, from the base of your skull all the way down to your tailbone. Imagine that there is a thread coming off the crown of your head and someone is gently pulling on that to elongate the spine. And if you have had any back injuries or overextension of the spine, bring your attention specifically to that place. so that when the elongation happens, you feel that there's a release rather than a pressure or a sharp pain of any sort. And then we bring our awareness to the trunk of the body, where the majority of our organs abide. So if there's any, once again, unsettledness, unrest, dis-ease, illness, injury, during the season with the allergies, the lungs sometimes get a lot of pressure to keep breathing through all the flower pollen and the tree pollen and the dust and the grasses. Or the heart, the stomach, the adrenals, the bladder. Just do a scan on the organs to see if all of them are in somewhat synchronicity this morning, that nobody's calling for attention. And if it is, bring your attention to that place. Then bring the attention to the hips, the buttocks. There's these huge muscles around that area. Big bones, any soreness there, any over-exertion, overextension. Bring your attention there. Then coming down the right hip, bring your awareness down to the leg, all the way down from the hip, the thigh, the knees, calves, all the way down to your toes. If you do a lot of standing, walking on hard surfaces, if you're a runner or a walker, then up the right leg, the hip, over across the buttocks, down to the left hip, down the leg, all the way to your toes. Giving each area a little bit of time, checking in. And then bring the attention back up to the crown of the head. And we'll do one more quick scan from the crown to the toes and the soles of our feet. This is really to, if we're going to do some meditation, we want to make sure that the body has had its share of attention so it's not interrupting us during the course of the meditation by giving it this kind time. Let's see if it has settled down and is at ease. So then we can turn our mind to the intention for being here today. Once the body is settled, then we can look at our minds and hearts. So for the motivation today, what can we say about mothers? And once again, mother of this life may have not been able to be a really good mother. Maybe she didn't quite, there's no test, there's no certification for motherhood. So sometimes mothers don't quite figure that out, struggling with their own internal issues. So whatever mother you had in your life, maybe it was your father, your grandmother, your aunt, a caretaker, whoever took care of you, bring them to mind. Always remembering that whatever our relationship was to Mom, she conceived us and gave birth to us, and we're here today, the people who we are, because of her kindness. Despite the difficulties that she encountered, despite the difficulties between her relationship to your dad, to her family, to the neighbors, to the employers, to herself, her greatest kindness was that she gave birth to us, fed us, made sure that all the social skills we needed to be able to engage with the world, dressing us, tying our shoes, going to school, teaching us manners, some of the basic skills that are required to navigate an ever more complex world. And even as we grew old and were adults, went on our own, got married, went to school, got a job, whoever that precious mother is or was, somebody always was checking in on us, maybe sometimes a little too much, but hoping that we're doing well, giving us advice when we needed support. And for many of us at the time of our life right now, we are repaying that incredible kindness by taking care of them. Many of us are at the age where our mothers are now aging, they're frail. Perhaps they have some cognitive issues. And so one of the greatest gifts we can give them in return for the incredible kindness of sustaining our lives is to care for them as best as we can, with a deep gratitude, appreciation, to try to heal whatever misunderstandings, whatever miscommunication or hurt feelings that may have arisen in the course of our probably the longest relationship we've ever had. And to show to her right now the same compassion that she showed to us when we were in trouble, when we were confused, when we were hurt. And even if she's not alive anymore, to bring her to mind. And to recognize that a lot of our strengths, a lot of our resiliency is due to her modeling that for us. Fortitude, joyous effort, kindness. And so let's really sit with that as we do the reflection this morning, is to know that mothers play an important role in our spiritual life. Either to see their kindness and wish to not only repay it to her directly, but to all the living beings that keep us alive, that support us, that teach us, that guide us. In some way, they are also mothers themselves to us. So the reflection this morning may not explicitly be a Buddhist meditation. It's probably used by all spiritual traditions, but it's very, very helpful. So the reflection comes at the end of the chapter last month, which was called Slow Things Down and Give Them Some Space. And the first paragraph in this chapter pretty much sums up what we're trying to accomplish with this reflection. So I will state the paragraph and then we'll go into the meditation. When powerful emotions come up in us, we experience the urge to act in ways that can overshadow our compassionate intentions. If we think we've been criticized, for example, we can feel an almost overwhelming urge to snap back at the other person. One way to counter this automatic reaction is by slowing things down, taking a moment to make sure we've perceived the situation correctly, and consider how best to respond so we can prevent impulsive emotional reactions we may later regret. If we can slow things down rather than falling into habits driven by powerful but not very clever emotions like anger and fear, we can use compassionate reasoning to consider how best to respond. So the reflection will be an actual process called the soothing rhythm breathing. That is in the chapter by the psychologist Russell Coates, who wrote this book with Venerable children called An Open-Hearted Life, which Venerable will teach from at 11. So just make sure that you're in a comfortable upright posture. Make sure you've got your meditation posture. And once again, as we do these points, in the middle of it, you may recall a current situation or a response that you may have given to an exchange this week with someone that you walked away from saying, well, that didn't go very well. Or even a relationship to your mom. Maybe there's a trigger point, a button that gets pushed there, a very familiar button between children and parents. So let's see if some of these steps may help us as a tool to slow the process down when we are getting triggered or something very tender and something very sensitive gets poked at in our hearts, to see if this can give us an opportunity to make another choice rather than the regular habitual reaction. So first, to just gently slow your breath down, taking 4 or 5 seconds on the in-breath, holding it for a moment, and then taking 4 or 5 seconds on the out-breath. Slow, deep breaths. So in, hold for 4 seconds. Gently breathe out. Hold for 4 seconds. We'll do this for some time, being very keenly aware of this breath and having a very clear intention to bring it out, bring it in, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Russell also suggests that we feel free to experiment with the breath, to find the way that works for you, that soothes you. Some people breathe in and out through their nose. Some breathe in through their nose and out through the mouth, or vice versa. So just experiment. And so Russell says to bring your attention to the feeling of slowing in your body. So focus on that sense of slowing. With our busy lives, this is an experience that we may not have very often. So be very cognizant that this breathing process is actually giving the body some ease, some support, some soothing. And if the mind wanders away, gently bring it back to the breath and the sense of slowing in your body and mind. So Russell says, like anything else, we get better at this with practice. To try and practice several times throughout the day with ease. So perhaps before we get into our car or while we're driving, to gently do this breathing practice. Perhaps before we go to work. Or there are 3 situations I try to remember, and sometimes this is harder than we think, is not only to be able to familiarize ourselves that when we're in a heated exchange or what is beginning to be a heated exchange, to find our breath. I find that sometimes it's better if I know I'm going to have a difficult conversation or I'm going to be in the company of someone who inadvertently, mostly unintentionally, pokes at me, presses some button I have, is that I prepare myself before that meeting with 1 or 2 minutes of just tracking my breath, getting the mind slowed down from a lot of its imagining of how things are going to go, to use this as a preparatory practice before I enter that relationship. And the third way is sometimes I'm not able to do it in the middle of the heated exchange, but afterwards when I walk away and I'm very unsettled about the unskillfulness I may have used, I bring myself back to my breath, bring my body and mind down with my breath so I can look at the situation again more clearly and perhaps see some of the moments where I might have made another choice. So the breath is something we have in our lives from the day we're born to the time we die, and so it does become a very practical tool to bring us back to the moment, bring us back to ourselves. But we have to practice. So let's just take one more moment and then we'll dedicate. Check in with the breath, the body, the heart. And so every time we do a meditation session here at the Abbey, we set a motivation in the beginning, and then we do a dedication at the end of the sessions.